was very friendly with most of the clubs in the area because I did lots of work for them, emergency work. If they were out mowing and something broke, I would weld it immediately. Because I could call up and they would let my foursome come up and play golf. But Bonnie Bryant was tough. Italians, this club, no. Now I'm doing very well. I had signed up for a golf club and I come home so happy to Louise. She stops me right then and there. She says, Joe, you said golf club. We have 3 daughters, another one coming, maybe. We need a country club. She said, good reports on Bonnie Bryant. Well, before you know it, we're in the dining room. The whole board is there interviewing Louise and I. Louise turns to them and she says, that pool is outdated. We have plans. We're going to put in an Olympic-sized pool. I thought to myself, geez, these guys are trying to sell Bonnie Bryant to Louise. Louise and I start walking out to the parking lot. The manager comes running out. Mr. Germano, you didn't leave a check. I says, Louise, you got a check? She says, yeah, I have a check. I says, write it.
The founder of Bonnie Bryant did not get to witness the profound changes at his club.
After World War II, Ed Bill retired more and more to Lyme, and a lot of his partying shifted up to the farm. When there was a party, he would raise this flag from the flagpole at the top of the hill. Another of the local legends is that the party was never complete until the Commissioner of State Police had fallen into the pond. For as long as we have records, Bill men died in their 50s. Now we know all of heart disease. When he knew he was going to die, he did a thing that no one really understood. He went off and back to Africa, taking with him his very young Buxom nurse, and disappeared again. And no one knew when he died till there was a notification through the embassy, and then sometime later his ashes had been shipped back.
The remains of Ed Bill, who had known both sacrifice and scandal, lay next to his father, the Colonel, who never did finish his dream house on Weaver Street. Not long before Bill's death, Bonnie Bryant itself bought a graveyard, the field where a bull once dodged errant drives and where a beloved horse was buried in 1911. But new facilities were the trivial part of what was to come.
Times did start to change because I think it was probably in the 70s that one of my very good friends, Alan Arrow, told the story of when he joined the club.
We were looking for a golf club, and here was this beautiful place called Bonnie Bryant, right around the corner from our house just about.
Alan Arrow was one of the nation's leading music lawyers. He and his wife were granted a membership interview that became a classic of club lore.
At the end of the meeting, Mario Casati, who was a member of that committee, came over to us and said, we're going to be very happy, he said, to have you as members of Bonnie Bryant. And I said, Mario, he was a neighbor of ours, and I said, Mario, that's very nice, but will we be happy being members of Bonnie Bryant? And he said, why wouldn't you? And I said, well, everyone knows this club is restricted religiously. And suddenly this tall, white-headed, handsome fellow stood up and he said, I don't understand you. He said, I am Jewish and I've been very happy being a member here. And 3 or 4 members of the committee turned around and they said, you're a what?
You're what?
And that was how Sherwood exposed his religion. Oh, he had been hiding for all those years. And so it gave us all a good laugh, and we decided to hang on and join the club.
Construction of new golf courses in the 1960s was one factor creating competition for members. Tax regulations were another, making it harder to deduct club expenses and to support multiple memberships.
Wingfoot was the place where you played your serious golf. Here was your fun golf and parties. And there was some 70 to 100 members of Bonnie Briar and Wingfoot together. So we had a major exodus from Bonnie Briar over to Wingfoot.
This is an actual entry in club minutes from 1972, a formula for keeping ethnic balance. The formula never quite held, but the concept did, and it produced memorable encounters.
My husband and I joined the club in March of that year, and when the club opened after the winter, in April they were having a dinner dance. The people who had brought us into the club moved into Manhattan after we got in, so they left the club. Therefore, we didn't know anybody here. Since we didn't know anybody, we were at a table for two. We were not at that table more than 5 minutes when a man, unknown to us, came over and said, "Nobody sits alone." He brought us over to his table. His name was Mike Carpinello. All the people at the table were Italian, and that night we met everybody whose name ended in I and O.
Not every transition went as smoothly.
It was 1978. I was a new kid on the block. I didn't know nothing. And there were a lot of rules, especially for women. So I happened to be up in the locker room, and there was this locker room lady, Anne, and she was very scary. And she said, "You're not allowed to get naked by your locker. You can change, but you cannot be naked in front of your locker." So I was thinking, the hell with her. If I want to be naked, I'm going to be naked. So I'm changing, I'm naked, and all of a sudden I hear footsteps. Like these heavy-duty, I'm scared to death. I said, "Oh my God, she's coming, what am I going to do?" And my locker is right in front of me. I open the locker, I jump inside and shut it. And I peeked out, and because I heard her footsteps, and then they went away, and I was safe. I got out just in time. We women had to go through a lot of stuff.
So right behind me is where the old men's grill used to be. We were new members. My husband brought me down here for lunch. We found our way to a table. The whole room was full of men, which at that point was really nothing unusual about the club. And one of the members came over to me and in front of everybody asked me to stand up on the table and dance for all the men in the room. Clearly I was horrified, embarrassed, ashamed, angry. And after a few minutes of just feeling that, the waitress, who was a woman, came up to me and said, "I'm sorry, dear, but we can't serve you here."
And we just figured we had to put an end to that. But eventually, since now women could be down there, they started coming upstairs and invading our area. But it was for everybody upstairs.
The fact that there was a woman professional here said a lot. And that even though Wednesday mornings were considered ladies' days, there was no discrimination about any woman of ability playing at any time she damn well pleased. I was solicited for a club that had a significant number of African American members. And so it never occurred to me that they would discriminate against anybody, but that wasn't true. As I found out as I went through the application process, even though African Americans were welcome, Jews weren't. And so I withdrew my application as soon as I found that was the case. And fortunately, a friend of my wife's, who was a member of the club, invited us to put an application here, and then we've been here ever since.
I did not have access to a lot of country clubs. I joined the club during the septuagenarian decade of the club. And I always admire the diversity of the club, diversity ethnic and religious, which is exactly the true reflection of the fabric of the society.
By the end of the 1970s, the club had adopted a new membership formula. One board member warned what might happen if the balance tipped. Alan Arrow said another issue should rule.